Okay, I will call the meeting to order, and roll call. All members of council are present. So I'll officially call it to order. Our land acknowledgement was read out at special council meeting earlier this afternoon. And to the members, any disclosure of pecuniary interest on the agenda as presented to you. Hearing none, we'll have that duly noted. Thank you. So the introduction and certainly the purpose of our meeting today is to hear public comment on a proposed industrial community improvement plan pursuant to the provisions of the Planning Act, RSO 1990. And I will think at this stage, I'm going to pass this on to our director, Mr. Hillman, if there's anything else you want to add there. And in the same token, I know we have delegations, if you can introduce them as we move along. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening to council and administration and those watching from home, perhaps. Yes, very briefly, council will recall that in May, there was a regular council meeting and a report was brought forward with respect to the retaining of Dillon Consulting to assist the town in the preparation of an industrial community improvement plan. Of course, community improvement plans are very familiar to us at administration and council with respect to the active plan we have on our Main Street area and the notion of it having incentives that help to promote development in the area. So this is something a little bit different. It's intended to incentivize significant industrial development through the town, and is being prepared in accordance with Section 28 of the Planning Act. That's a section of the Planning Act that speaks to the concept of community improvement plans. And with a community improvement plan, it gives council the ability to do things that otherwise it wouldn't be able to, for example, incentivizing development. And it's become quite a strategic economic policy document to have as a municipality, particularly in Ontario. So the purpose of this evening's meeting is for Dillon Consulting to review some of the recommended programs that we're looking at, and also to summarize where have we been over the last couple of months with respect to the preparation of this document. So with us is Rory Baksh and Zoe Satorikis, and they are both registered planners with Dillon Consulting, and they will review the findings, and then we'll go from there. And of course, it's a public meeting, so there are I think two other delegations also listed on the agenda, Mr. Mayor, and we'll be happy to answer questions as they surface. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Hillman. Our first delegation, obviously, the town-wide community improvement plan. Our industrial incentives with us are Mr. Rory Baksh from Dillon Consulting and Zoe Satorikis from Dillon Consulting. So I will now turn over the floor to both of you, and welcome to our meeting.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are very much honored to serve the town of Tecumseh in this capacity. I'm helping to prepare the town for forthcoming future economic prosperity and to connect itself to a very significant global movement that we are seeing right now, on the path to hopefully a more sustainable future for all. Good evening again. Good afternoon again. My name is Rory Baksh, and I'm joined by my colleague Zoe. I'll offer a few introductory remarks and then hand it over to Zoe's capable hands as a professional planner to lead us through the rest of the presentation this evening. I just wanted to find out if we have sharing ability. Yes, I believe. And so I will then launch the slides to
Actually, I'll launch the slideshow for you.
Oh, thank you.
Ready.
Yes, please. There we go. And if you could kindly move on to the next slide. What we'd like to do this evening for the benefit of council and all of the citizens that are participating this evening is to offer an overview of the timeline of this particular CIP study, what it means to be advancing a CIP of this nature for the community, to offer a recap of the engagement that's been conducted thus far, to speak about the positive benefits to the economic sector, those positive impacts, and how we hope to incentivize those through the CIP, the nature of the eligibility and the types of programs, and then offer a bit of look ahead in regards to the next steps. So as it relates to the project timeline, as you heard from Brian, we have been working a little bit furiously away for this. One of the reasons why we have moved with a fair amount of momentum is because of the recent announcement that the provincial government made as it related to the investment in Stellantis. And that was a very significant major investment. It is right next door to Tecumseh. And one of the things that we certainly want to do is to help the community be prepared for the next significant opportunity. Although we've been moving at a reasonably quick speed, we haven't skipped any steps. I'm very confident in saying that. We have conducted a reasonable amount of background research on the way to drafting the community improvement plan, and we've taken steps to reach out to the community, including some one-on-one chats and a previous public information center that we had offered for folks to learn about what was going on and some of the emerging ideas. We are looking ahead to having a CIP ultimately adopted and approved by the town, and to position the town in a place such that you are then moving forward on its strategic initiatives. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Zoe, who will continue to speak about how we're advancing a CIP, the nature of the work that we've done, and where we are headed into the future. Zoe?
Wonderful. Thank you, Rory. Good evening, Mayor, Administration, members of Council, and the public. Thank you so much for having us tonight. So as Brian mentioned on the next slide there, we'll go over how we intend to advance the CIP. So under Section 28 of the Planning Act, the process is outlined for the municipality to create a community improvement plan, and the town's official plan has policies that permit council to designate portions of the settlement area through a CIP. The purpose of the CIP is to have an incentive-based suite of programs that encourages investment in the community. And this CIP will be focused on attracting major new industrial investment and development to locate within the town. Section 28 of the Planning Act also holds that a CIP would allow the town to provide rebates to registered owners, assessed owners, and tenants of the land and buildings that are within the community improvement plan project area for the whole or any part of eligible costs as outlined in the community improvement plan. As well, the Section 28 contains policies that through a CIP, the town may acquire land within the community improvement plan project area or hold acquired land and prepare the acquired land for community improvement. As shown on the side, for the CIP, the community improvement plan project area is proposed to be town-wide. It will provide programs supporting the development of industrial lands, buildings, and businesses subject to the lands being presently within the delineated settlement area boundaries with appropriate designation and zoning for industrial development, or as the land uses may change from time to time. Going on to our next slide, we'll give an overview of our engagement to date. So as mentioned, we held a public open house on April 20th virtually. We had a series of questions asked to the attendees at that time, and they're also posted to the town website so we could virtually receive feedback from the stakeholders and public who could view the presentation after the fact. After the interactive polling section was closed, the polls reviewed the priorities for incentive programs, objectives of the CIP, sectors to focus on, and financial incentive program options. We also conducted stakeholder interviews with key local and industry contacts in the month of April. And then during the next phase of that feedback, we summarized and welcomed the public and the project team to continue discussions with Invest Windsor Essex and key stakeholders within the county. So the main themes that emerged from our engagement with the public and stakeholders included economic growth, particularly around green industry and technologies, automotive industries and supporting industries, local factors and considerations such as availability of infrastructure and servicing and site readiness, key industries being tool and die, manufacturing, tier 1 and tier 2 plants, automotive and suppliers, manufacturing for green industry and technology and those related products, We also discussed and heard criteria on the CIP eligibility being based around items such as investment value, scale of impact, number of employees, and size of buildings. And the implementation for the CIP to include incentives for planning fees and development charges, tax relief for feasibility studies, and consider the lifespan of the proposed industrial development and how it will continue to contribute to the wider economy. So continuing on our economic note, as Rory mentioned, we're going to review a bit of the economic sector insight. So the province of Ontario's vision is to strengthen and build Ontario's North American leadership in the automotive assembly and parts production, and position Ontario to be a leader in development, commercialization, and adoption of advanced manufacturing and mobility technologies. And that's from a quote from the 2019 publication of Driving Prosperity and the Future of Ontario's Automotive Sector. So given the province's continued support for the automotive sector and large-scale automotive assembly plants, the targeted CIP for Tecumseh contemplates manufacturing uses in appropriately designated employment areas. And the town has an established industrial hub where a diverse collection of industrial uses are located. And those economic sectors are targeted through the CIP and would be compatible with already existing uses in the town and are intended to benefit the town from, given its proximity to the city of Windsor and international border crossing. So in light of the recent announcements from the province and regarding the investments in the automotive sector, the town stands to benefit from the proximity to new large-scale automotive battery plants and assembly plants in the city of Windsor. And this provides the opportunity to the town to be a potential feeder plant location and enhance synergies in the automotive industry. Moving on a little bit more on the economy here. So the CIP is intended to help the town of Tecumseh become a more significant contender for major new industrial investment and development opportunities. Through the financial incentives, it could allow the town to compete with other nearby municipalities in attracting industrial development. The CIP would incentivize and prepare lands for strategic industrial development with the potential to tailor towards those emerging industries discussed. The CIP can help the town of Tecumseh remain supportive for the automotive industry and take advantage of lucrative industrial opportunities, particularly with respect to those announcements mentioned in the city of Windsor and the general trend in that direction. So given the proximity to North America's two automotive hubs, Windsor and Detroit, and convenient access through major transportation corridors, the CIP could enhance those synergies with the existing industries and attract those secondary and tertiary industries for economic development. That concludes my portion of the presentation. I'll pass it on to Rory, who will take us through the proposed eligibility criteria and programs. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Zoe. So as it relates to a community improvement plan, one of the things that I've learned through the many years of doing these in Ontario is it's really important to set very clear eligibility criteria. The municipality is actually going to great extents to attract the right type of development to stimulate economic prosperity. And it wants to send a clear message out to the world that they are welcoming a certain scale of development that's going to be a real economic driver for the municipality. And so we've set out eligibility criteria that are designed to deliver that message to the broader global world of investors in this particular sector. So, certainly as it relates to the actual development that would take place, we do, want it to be within effectively the settlement area. And to decode that, what I mean is you want it tied into appropriate servicing and for it to be employment land and be appropriately zoned, which is, basic parameters for good planning and development. But beyond that, I think we have some very simple eligibility criteria, but also communicate very clearly what the future holds and, who we're looking to attract to the community. As it relates to property assessment in Ontario, we have a handful of industries that are subject to special methodologies for assessment because of their unique characteristics. The way that most individual homeowners see property assessment is totally different than how it gets assessed for a variety of strategic industries. And there are two separate methodology guides for automotive. one for assembly plants and the other one for parts manufacturing. Now, if you happen to be an industry that would be eligible for assessment under this methodology, this is the type of industry that we're looking to invest in Tecumseh. So that, I think, helps set a very clear expectation. The other thing is scale. We realize that there's very significant investment going on, and we're looking for something related to the scale that will be an economic driver, that will be significant, and that will create spin-off economic benefits broadly and for an extended period of time. And when we study these impact assessment methodologies, we begin to see a pattern as it relates to the scale of businesses, the scale of these automotive assembly plants and manufacturing plants. What we also know is that with increased automation, some of these major plants, the newer ones coming online, can be more compact because they are using robotics and automation, and they need less circulation space for human beings to be part of it. So we've set an initial threshold as it relates to eligibility criteria of 140,000 square meters, or approximately 1.5 million square feet. And again, this is relatively synonymous with the scale of the type of economic driver industry we are looking to attract to the town of Tecumseh. So I'll continue on to the next slide. So the question then is, once you've met those eligibility criteria and you're having a conversation with that investor, that major developer, they want to know, what is Tecumseh going to offer me that is unique to your community, that gives you the competitive advantage over the other 7, 8, or 9 jurisdictions that I'm also talking with? And one of the most significant things a municipality can do is offer what's called the tax increment equivalent rebate program. And what it says is that if you bring your major development to our community, we could levy property tax, but we can make an active decision to attract you, that we will offer you a form of a tax rebate. So in this case, we are suggesting 50% of the municipal portion. So that's, we know that on the tax bill, you have the education levy, and you have the County of Essex levy, and you have the town of Tecumseh levy. So this is the 50% of the town of Tecumseh levy. And the reason 50% for the sake of this draft CIP makes sense is that you're foregoing half of the revenue, but you're still collecting half of the revenue. And I think, you know, for the sake of this draft, this is a pretty smart way to go. It ensures that you do see a revenue stream coming forward from that major development, that major investor in your community. And we speak to it as a rebate because financially the way that it works is they still have to pay the full amount of taxes every year on their tax bill, but then you provide them with a rebate under this particular program of 50% of that. Now, there are a whole host of other things for an industry that is as significant as this that the province will put on the table. This is a way of the town of Tecumseh putting something on the table that I think is tangible and again keeps you in the running for that major investment to come. I'll continue on with one of our other programs. So this is the building and planning permit fees rebate. So for any major developer, they typically have to go through a site plan approval process. They will have to go through a building permitting process. One of the ways of, again, incentivizing this is offering rebates on those. They still pay those fees. Once the development is fully built out and operational, they can receive a rebate for those fees. The Planning Act fees that are levied for the town of Tecumseh for site plan review are relatively modest in the scale of a multi-million-dollar, potentially even $1 billion type investment. The building code fees would be significant based on the number of square feet of a development that is being proposed. So there is something to be gained here, and again continues to keep Tecumseh in the running when a major investor is doing a comparison between different jurisdictions and the opportunities for making that investment decision in this particular community. Planning and building permitting fees are also quite common for other CIPs, very traditional CIPs such as downtown revitalization. You'll find that is a common program for downtown revitalization across CIPs in Ontario, so it's not unusual. Lastly, there's a development charge rebate that we are proposing as part of this particular package of financial incentives. Instead of collecting all of those DCs and keeping them, we're proposing right now a rebate of 100% of the development charges. The DCs are designed to recover the cost of infrastructure. Again, big picture, grand scheme, you have a major investment coming to this community. They're going to be here for a very, very long period of time. The amount of revenue generated through municipal taxes over a longer term period of 35, 40, 50-year perspective is way more significant than the one-time amount of development charges that could be levied. And so there is, the relationship that we see here as when we think about the benefits that we are attempting to offer as an attractive benefit for these major developments. So again, development charge rebates are also not uncommon when we look at different community improvement plans across Ontario. Again, more typically for things like downtown revitalization. In this case, we are taking that as a best practice and incorporating it for in major industrial development. So the other thing I'd like to draw attention to is that a community improvement plan, while in many cases the focus is on financial incentives, it also is still a plan. And within its planning mandate, it allows a municipality to set a series of priorities in place related to achieving the vision. I encourage municipalities to see beyond the financial incentives and ask yourself, what else do we need to do in order to be prepared for the major investment, in order to make sure that we are ready? And all of the things in the municipal leadership strategy, which is what we like to call it, it shows that you're being a leader and it shows that you're preparing yourself for the major investment, are outlined here. We have a series of suggestions related to making sure that the official plan is up to date, making sure that you've looked at your land needs assessment for large scale employment uses. For example, coordinating with the County of Essex as it relates to complementary incentives, because they have an opportunity to do so at the county level. Thinking about your infrastructure and where you may want to advance, plan and invest in that infrastructure to be able to say, we're prepared for you. If you need water and sewer, you can come to our community and you can tie in and you can go. And quite a number of other things that reflect a concept of preparedness for major economic development for a sector that is seeing a huge amount of activity and is probably seeing the most rapid amount of growth that it's ever seen for many, many decades. So very much an exciting time for this particular economic sector, and very much an exciting time for Tecumseh to hold the reins of its future through both a combination of financial incentives and an aspect of municipal leadership. So I'll continue on and speak to a simple element of next steps. So as we move beyond tonight's public consultation and we receive feedback and hear thoughts, then we'll be working to review and discuss the draft CIP's policies and financial incentives and leadership strategy with Brian and other members of town staff. Our goal is always to try to right size it for the needs of the community and the type of economic prosperity we're trying to stimulate. We hope to be back in front of council towards July so that the CIP is finalized and ready for adoption. And then, certainly we look forward to a brighter future ahead for the town of Tecumseh. With that, thank you for allowing us an opportunity to speak to you this afternoon, and we are more than happy to answer any questions that you may have about an industrial CIP for Tecumseh.
All right. Well, thank you, Rory and Zoe, for certainly the presentation and that. And I'm glad in the last slide where you indicated as well, as you know, we've got an upper and lower tier government here as well. And we share things, obviously. We share roads as a great example and infrastructure required, in certainly in that area. And I think there is a role for certainly the county to play, not only for us, but certainly the region and the 7 communities where I think a benefit on a CIP program regionally, especially for the magnitude of the type of investment that, the potential and what's arrived and what potential, in terms of those large investments. to look at a kind of a joint opportunity, like, between the county and certainly the lower tier municipality. I think there's synergies there and opportunities, I think great opportunities. In particular, when we look at even in the official plan in the county where they actually look at certain industrial sites and in our own community, our Old Castle site, for example, as a regional employment lands. And so there's I think a great opportunity for us to to continue the dialogue or have that conversation with certainly our colleagues at county council, because when you look at investments of that magnitude and so forth, the tremendous synergies from housing requirements, commercial requirements, and obviously the supply line, logistics. I mean, it goes on and on and on, right? And to be able to support those huge investments. So I see a great opportunity here and to expand the value of what a CIP would be. I mean, obviously it needs to start somewhere for us in the county, and certainly the leadership being brought forward by council and administration, I think is a great foundation piece. Questions or comments? Yes, go ahead, Councilor Houston.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just gonna, mention the county piece. You've touched on that. So, I look forward to hearing how those conversations go at the upper level, and the hopeful support that the county would, reciprocate on a plan like this. So, but other than that, I think it's a fantastic presentation. The information is great, and look forward to the final presentation in July, and the potential of now us having something like this in place and the fruit it may bear. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Councilor Houston. Councilor Altenhoff.
Thank you, Worship, and through you to our colleagues from Dillon Consulting. Thank you for the presentation. And I would just ask you, if you don't mind, I know on slide 33, or I guess it depends, it's the recommended CIP municipal leadership strategy. You give a listing of a number of items there. Do you see any, out of all of those kind of items, which I'll refer to them as kind of low-hanging fruit that we can potentially grab onto and, see some big, perhaps big opportunities for our area that maybe you want to kind of highlight a bit better?
Through the mayor to the councillor, yes, I'm pleased to speak to that. I do think that having dealt with some major economic investors and some ministerial zoning orders in some other parts of Ontario, I can speak with from the mindset of the investor. What they are looking to do is get to shovel ready as quickly as possible. And so from that mindset, we want to be able to first place them into the municipality on land that is ready to go. So land that is designated, land that either has servicing or is easily serviceable, and then facilitate that development as quickly as possible. So from that mindset, what I do recognize is that if we ask the question, do you have a site that is designated, that is of the scale for an industry of this size to come to the community? I don't think the answer is yes right now. So I do think it's really important as a follow-on to this community improvement plan within the municipal leadership strategy that you do look at the availability of employment lands. You do look at the scale of development that's happening in this sector. You do identify a strategic site and you work to designate that as a strategic employment area within Tecumseh and in coordination with the County of Essex. That for me is really important. And then from that, other things will come, for example, infrastructure studies and working with utility providers and those types of things to, again, move the bar, step by step towards having a site that's essentially shovel ready for major investment. And I think in parallel to that one, I do think it's valuable to work with the county and arrange for the county to offer a complimentary form of financial incentive. There's a provision for that in the Planning Act. And I know the conversation has always been the same. Every time they come, what are you going to offer me? They look across the table to the provincial rep, they look to the county rep, they look to the municipal rep, and they want to know what you're going to do to facilitate their investment. You know, I saw it with Samsung. I've seen it happen with, you know, Nissan in the United States. You know, that is currently the way things are going. The next big thing is going to be as it relates to the battery pack recycling. So we're talking about EVs. The next big thing to come is battery pack recycling. There's new technology, major investment, new plants being developed. And that next wave wants to know where can we have a major development, and what are you going to do to incentivize this major part of the industry moving forward? Are you ready for us in your community? Do you want to work with us? So hopefully, you know, those things that I highlighted were important. The official plan piece and the county incentives, definitely priorities.
Thank you.
Yeah, I could simplify the comment. Here's my analogy. If you want to run with the big dogs, you got to step off the porch. And this is where we're at right now. Councillor Jobin?
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor. To Rory, thank you for the presentation. Just a few comments. I represent the Ward 5 where the industrial and Old Castle is currently, and then we also have in the northern part the Manning Road industrial development area as well. Manning Road is coming upon some enhancements along there with widening and roundabouts and the expressway enhancements. We currently do have traffic congestion and issues in the Old Castle Hamlet with the residential, and we do have a residential component that's growing as well in that area. In those, my concerns with that, not just the county and county road enhancements, but the 401 at the exit. I've said this over the years to alleviate the semi truck, and even now there would be increase in employment, so just regular vehicle traffic. We have to advocate with the MTO for the 401 to continue when you come off the 401 at County Road 46. It's a 3-stop. It should continue to a four-way and go right to Walker Road. So it alleviates the congestion and traffic through the residential development. We haven't had success in that, so we have to build a relationship with the MTO there I feel have a firmer hand on that. It's just growing, and as that industrial area develops to the north there, it's just going to get that much more aggressive. So that would probably be my greatest concern at this point. And if we can encourage the new developers of these industrial, whatever types they may be, to have some more green spaces and to be considerate of the residential components with maybe some more green spaces or even buffers, whether it be better cement walls or, you know, there's all kinds of different options out there, but we can just try to keep that on the radar as well. Maybe even some staffing rooftop things instead of just like big blocks of buildings with noise and smoke and dust. If we can make it maybe a little more green in some regard. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions or comments? All right. Looking forward to July. So if I could have a motion to receive that, the slide deck, Councilor Toniel, thank you. Councilor Houston, support, all in favor. Opposed, if any, that is carried. Again, to both Rory and Zoe, thank you for the presentation, and we are looking forward to the final presentation will come forward in July.
You're most welcome, Mayor McNamara.
Okay, next delegation is the James Sylvester Developments Josette Eugenie and Mr. Jeff Sylvester.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We appreciate the opportunity to be with you tonight. We read through the slides and we're kind of excited to see an opportunity like this. The one question that came to mind was the criteria to qualify. At 1.5 million square feet is 34 acres, and at 50% lot coverage, that's a 68 acre site. And looking at the settlement areas, to find one piece of land that size contiguous to allow that development would be a challenge. So I guess we're willing to participate and support this, of course, but I think the criteria is too large to attract some of these things into the existing settlement areas. And I appreciate that Rory spoke to this, because this does need to be expanded if we're going to be able to achieve and attract a big dog to our area. We do have obviously property that's neighboring some settlement areas, but even in the Old Castle area, I think there's opportunities to expand these settlement areas to provide a large enough parcel to satisfy the minimum criteria. So, and I think that that's an important thing that we need to be aware of, because currently, I don't think that 68 acre parcels in one piece are high in number. That's probably our number one comment that we'd like to make.
Okay. Is a comment, or do you want us to, any questions?
Oh, no, that's our biggest comment.
Okay.
I don't know how, and I'm glad Rory spoke to it, because I think he acknowledges that is a tough order in the existing settlement areas to satisfy. So we just wanted to bring that to the town's attention, that the settlement areas need to be adjusted in order to satisfy those land requirements for a large industrial development.
Okay. Mr. Hillman, is there anything, or?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just very briefly, thank you for the comment from Josette and Jeff. We do have actually lands inside the new settlement area along the 401 extending from Old Castle that would accommodate it. In fairness, it would take some land consolidations inside the settlement area. But that quite often comes with this type of development where the proponent is actively engaged. So we weren't looking at it so much from existing ownership patterns as much as from the existing areas that are available, but recognizing there are limitations, certainly, and hence the recommendation to, there's so many moving parts with this, so they all come forward at different times. And this is one of the parts of an economic development strategy, and we will continue to move forward. So. But point taken.
Okay, anything further, Mr. Sylvester, or certainly Ms. Eugenie?
No, we're excited to see this come forward, because it's going to give us some more tools in our work belt to attract people as well. If the incentives could be made a little smaller, it might be a little easier, but I think as Rory pointed out, if the big dog comes, then there's a whole entourage of supporting business that are going to come with him.
Yeah, correct. All right, thank you. Any further questions or comments, members of council, on the second delegation? If not, then we'll move on to the third delegation, Invest Windsor Essex, the CEO, Stephen McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and it's a pleasure to be here to speak with you this evening with council and members of the administration First of all, Rory, Zoe, excellent presentation. I thought it was the benefits were clearly articulated. Wonderful job on that. I think as was mentioned in the comments, Invest Windsor Essex did provide input to Dylan as they were collecting it. And in short, Invest Windsor Essex is in full support of the CIP program. We applaud Tecumseh for pursuing it. As it's been mentioned a couple of times, in today's competitive climate, it's a must. It's a must in our opinion. And one of your neighboring municipalities, the last two large deals that were announced, both utilized a CIP program to help close that deal. So, there's no question about the value. So my job, in economic development here is to attract the investment to come in and market the sites in Tecumseh and everywhere. So speaking as a salesman, I will just say, the higher the percentage of rebate and the lower the square foot requirements, the better, generally speaking. But again, the municipality, what I like about this process you're going through, you're evaluating, you're targeting the types of investment that you want to see. And so there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that it's still competitive, and even with the CIP. So we've heard a lot of talk about big dogs, and big dogs are awesome, but puppies are awfully cute too, right? So, and sometimes they grow into big dogs.
Big
so,
dogs, yeah.
Just for consideration, the deal that was announced Friday was starting at a $60 million investment. It was going to be 170,000 square feet to start, and it will probably grow, and 300 employees by phase 2. So, I would just encourage and Rory's comments on the site selection process, 100% dead on. What's the business case? It comes down to spreadsheets, believe it or not, as sophisticated as these things are, and they evaluate it. So just, explore it. I would also encourage consideration for, the net zero green and automotive are kind of cross, fertilized at the moment. So, one of the other emerging industries is going to be hydrogen, for example. So, and again, I'm not sure how the final language gets put into the legislation, but certainly if there was the opportunity to have some flexibility that the municipality could evaluate another type of investment under special circumstance or something, that would leave you a little more options open. So again, I applaud the effort, and I know Dylan's been doing an excellent job because of our interaction with them. And certainly the industry's identified solid. It's going to continue to grow. So, if anybody has any questions or, of experiences that we've had in that, I'd be very happy to answer them. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Stephen. Any questions or certainly comments to Mr. McKenzie at this time? Go ahead, Councillor Altenhoff.
Thank you, Worship, and through you, not really to Mr. McKenzie, but thank you very much for the comments, actually, to both delegates or both groups of delegates. Thank you very much. I guess I would suggest, I appreciate that, because when I was seeing the presentation, when I noted the size of the facility, certainly we know that's quite large, and we understand what that means. But I also like, because they both our delegates kind of commented on that, that the dog will grow big, and we also want to make sure that we can, be a catalyst, be a spark for this. So I would just ask, administration as well as our consultants, kind of just be aware of that and see what we can do. I'm sure we'll find many examples where, maybe we're a little less in size, not necessarily us, but other municipalities, and it sparked obviously something bigger because plants often will add or grow or do something else. So I really take these comments. I think they're very good and something for us to consider, as well as let's look to the future in the sense that be open to other opportunities. Windsor Essex has an awesome capabilities in terms of some of the manufacturing that it can do, and that may spark some new innovation thing that we don't necessarily see right now, but could be on the forefront, and we can be there because we have those capabilities. So I just ask to be open, I guess, to thinking to the future. I know it's a bit hard to see; none of us have crystal balls necessarily. But I guess be open to that in kind of considering this final draft as we move forward. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Councillor. Okay, any further questions or comments to Mr. McKenzie? Okay, well, thank you for to all our delegations here today, and I'm sure that we're going to be continuing our conversation as this moves forward for sure. And looking forward to our meeting in July when there'll be a little bit more, I guess, more meat on the bone on this whole event. But I think Mr. McKenzie hit it right on the nail on the head. Is that it's a big world out there, or really it's not that big, but it's global, the business world in particular, and it's highly, highly competitive. And so if we, I mean, everything is not a 100% guarantee, but we need to have, a solid plan. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done. There's no question. But if anything, I've heard you say 100 times, shovel ready. Shovel ready is a huge key, because a lot of them, with the large investments that they do make, they want to be in production very quick in order for them to recoup. So we understand that aspect of it, and I want to certainly commend my colleagues on council, for having that vision, and also our administrative team, who have been very good and understand, also what needs to be done. So looking forward to July, and with that, there's no further questions. Certainly, members of council. Then the only thing that I need to deal right now is the communication piece after the fact. If I could have to receive the community committee, the notice meeting that was dated on May 18th. If I could have a motion from Council Deputy Mayor Becchetti, move, and supported by Councilor Tonio. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Also, if I could have a motion on the report of the Tecumseh Industrial CIP draft CIP document for public meeting on June 7th, that the report entitled Draft Industrial Community Improvement Plan of June 7th, 2022 public meeting be received, and that the scheduling a public meeting to be held on Tuesday, July 12th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. in accordance with the Planning Act for the purpose of seeking public and stakeholder input on an amendment to the Tecumseh official plan that would have the effect of establishing that the entire municipality can constitute the community improvement area, within which individual community improvement project areas may be designated by bylaw be authorized. Moved by Councilor Houston, supported by Councilor Jobin. On the motion, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. With that, members of council, then if no further business, then adjournment is appropriate. Councilor Altonoff and Councilor Tonio, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. All right, we'll